Is it possible that all of the major world religions are true? Let's get into it. Many people have a problem with religious exclusivity, which we can define as the idea that only one religion contains the entire truth, and the others do not. Religious pluralism, on the other hand, can be seen as the idea that one or more religious systems are seen as equally valid. It is said the major world religions are basically getting at the same thing, or part of the truth about God, but no single religion has a monopoly on truth. I want to be specific here and say I'm talking about the 5 major world religions: Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Because even those that are the most inclusive within religious pluralist circles are not going to grant that ancient cannibalistic religions or ancient pagan religions, where you would do child sacrifices to gods, are equally valid to the 5 major world religions. So we're going to stick to those today for this video. Before we get into the problems that people raise about the idea of religious exclusivity, or the idea that only one religion has all of the truth, first I want to give you an illustration that religious pluralists give to defend their position. Let's imagine we have a big elephant, and there are several blind men walking up to the elephant, and they all touch different part of its body. One says, "This creature is long and flexible like a snake," while holding the trunk. Another says, "Not at all. It's thick and round like a tree trunk," while holding his leg. Another, "No, it's large and flat like a wall," while touching the elephant's side. In the same way, it's argued that each of the world religions have a grasp of a small piece of spiritual reality, but none of them can be said to possess it in its totality or to have a comprehensive vision of the truth. The late Timothy Keller responded to this illustration in his book, The Reason for God, and this is what he had to say. This illustration backfires on its users. The story is told from the point of view of someone who is not blind. How could you know that each blind man only sees part of the elephant unless you claim to be able to see the whole elephant? How could you possibly know that no religion can see the whole truth unless you yourself have the superior, comprehensive knowledge of spiritual reality that you just claim that none of the religions have? In other words, it sounds very nice and inclusive, but at the end of the day, we're all going to have to make some assumptions about the elephant. So if we're imagining that the elephant is all the knowledge we could possibly have about God, the religious pluralist is claiming to see the entire elephant, and the rest of us who hold to traditional religious views are just blind men touching part of the elephant. Hopefully now you're beginning to see the self-defeating nature of religious pluralism. Now we're going to get into the objections against religious exclusivity, or the idea that only one religion has got it right. The first one is going to be geography determines your belief, or where you're born determines which religion you adhere to. This is a popular reason people put forward for rejecting religious exclusivity. They say wherever you're born largely determines what we believe. If you were born in the Middle East, you'd probably be a Muslim. If you were born in China, you'd probably be a Buddhist or an atheist. If you were born in India, it's likely you'd be a Hindu, and so it goes. They basically say the only reason you're a Christian is because you live in the West. This is a classic case of the genetic fallacy, basically saying that someone's belief is wrong because of the way that they obtained it. And the problem with this reasoning is that it can also be turned around on the pluralist. Let's say that I grant that if I was born in Iraq, I'd be a Muslim. The same could be said about the religious pluralist. If they were not born in the West, they probably wouldn't be a pluralist. Does it follow from this that either one of our beliefs were arrived at through an unreliable belief-producing process? Obviously not. One other objection that us religious exclusivists get is that it's arrogant to be an exclusivist about religion. The argument goes like this. There are lots of equally intelligent or even more intelligent people in the world who hold different religious beliefs than you. They too are convinced that their beliefs are true. It is arrogant for you to say that you have a monopoly on truth and that all of the other religions are wrong. Who do you think you are? There are 3 problems with this line of argumentation that I want to get into. We all have to come to conclusions about the biggest questions in life. In this argument, it's being assumed that God is unknowable, or that God hasn't revealed himself within a sacred text of any kind, or that God is a loving force but not wrathful. These too are faith assumptions that are unprovable. Finally, and most importantly, the pluralist believes that their view is superior to traditional religious views. They believe the world would be a better place if we all abandoned traditional religious views and adopted their view. If the pluralist view isn't exclusivist in this way, then there is nothing inherently more exclusivist about the traditional religious perspectives. The last thing I want to address is this concern that all of the major religions are basically getting at the same thing. Yes, we do have superficial similarities, like we all pray or meditate, we have sacred texts, we have worship services, etc. But does it follow from this that we're all getting at the same thing? Let's take Jesus, for example. Who is Jesus? For the Christian, he is God in the flesh, and the only way to heaven. For the Muslim, he's a prophet. For the Orthodox Jew, he's a false Messiah. For many Buddhists and Hindus, he is a moral teacher. All of these propositions about Jesus cannot be true at the same time. Bottom line, we all have to come to conclusions about ultimate reality and where the truth lies. Religious pluralism is self-defeating. None of their considerations work, and so we're going to have to evaluate traditional religious perspectives as they are and follow the evidence where it leads. And spoiler alert, Christianity's true. Thank you so much for watching this video on religious exclusivity versus religious pluralism. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want more content like this. This has been The Epitome. I'm your host, Nathan Bozeman. We'll see you around.